USA, one of the largest producers but also the largest consumers of liquefied natural gas, recently paused new LNG export approvals to review the significant public safety, climate and economic dangers of this technology. Will the Minister accept that Ireland should follow suit and undertake a review to consider some of those same harms?
Thank you, Deputy Harkin. I have not received a formal report from my department on the actions undertaken by the Biden administration as referenced in the question. The Government approved and published the Energy Security in Ireland to 2030 report last November, which concludes that Ireland's future energy will be secured by moving from a fossil fuel-based energy system to an electricity-led system, maximising our renewable energy potential, flexibility and being integrated into Europe's energy systems. With regard to gas, the report determines that as a transitional measure, we will examine the possible introduction of a strategic gas emergency reserve to address security needs in the medium term, to be used only if a disruption to gas supplies occurs. As a final part of the reviews of Ireland's energy security, my department, in consultation with Gas Networks Ireland, will complete a detailed examination to introduce a reserve in line with the criteria and requirements determined by the department, which include a proposal that can be implemented quickly, one that does not inadvertently increase gas demand by increasing the supply available on the market, a cost-effective proposal at the appropriate scale, which provides sufficient resilience if a disruption to gas supply occurs, a proposal which is compatible with the Climate Action and Low Carbon Development Act 2015 to 2021. A state-led approach is based on the premise that the strategic reserve would only be used in an emergency. Additionally, the state-led approach is consistent with the Climate Act and broader government climate and energy policy, avoiding the risk of fossil fuel lock-in or stranded fossil fuel assets. The work is continuing as a matter of priority. As I said earlier, one of the issues in which further research and information is necessary relates to the timetable for introducing such a facility and the timelines within which gas demand may fall to reduce the risk. This has to be examined very closely. We know that in this decade we are at risk and are exposed, given the likelihood that delivery of a strategic gas reserve facility may not happen until early in the next decade. Analysis is required as to whether the planned dramatic reduction in gas use, particularly in the electricity generation sector, means that an alternative way to meet the energy security risk might be better. For example, future electricity interconnectors with the UK or France, or what is fast evolving long-term storage capability. This further research is something I've called for, and the department is looking at before going back to government and the Oireachtas with detailed analysis.
Minister, thank you. There's little mention there of the health and safety impacts of LNG, and as you must be aware, it's a significant national security and public health risk for the nation. When LNG ignites, it creates a fire so hot that it can burn people, animals and vegetation up to a mile away. And it's actually unlikely, having looked at the impacts of some previous explosions, that a whole region of Ireland would have enough emergency services to deal with an ignition. Has your department considered in encouraging the Commission for Regulation of Utilities to review the health and safety impacts of LNG?
You're right, that is an issue for Crew and, in the end, on Bob Penola, or the planning authority, the relevant planning authority, in any application for such a facility. Crew, going back, their role in gas regulation goes back to my recollection, it goes back to the whole Carib issue, where this was a central issue in terms of could we guarantee local communities of their safety, and Crew do that on an ongoing basis. I haven't asked them, to be honest, or not. I'd have to go back and check in terms of what their most recent analysis is, but I'm not aware of them commissioning any specific analysis in that regard. We haven't. Well, the only government position has been we would not have a commercial facility. We were looking at a strategic facility. I think Crew's analysis of the safety implications of that would only come when there's greater clarity as to if any such facility has been used.
Thank you, Minister. I mean, we have done a huge amount of work on energy security reports and reviews, and there's been an incredible amount of research done by this government into LNG, I suspect. And so it seems to be that there has been no research on the health and safety impacts for communities. Ireland has a very dispersed population. So when there is an incident with LNG, the evacuation zone is between 2 and 3 miles. So for an area like Shannon, 2 and 3 miles is a lot of people to move from their homes and for their homes to be in grave danger. In 2004, there was an explosion in Algeria that killed 27 people outright, and over 70 people were seriously injured. So I'm just wondering, could you commit to undertake a health and safety review of LNG?
By all means, we will, obviously, if any facility be built, that would be the first thing that would be of consideration both by the regulator and by the planning authority, and you have to make sure that you have all the processes and procedures in place. But we are not at the position where we are deciding whether we would have any LNG facility. There's further analysis needed. And you mentioned the international aspects of this in the US, but there's also European analysis. I mentioned earlier on, I was at European Energy Council today. One of the key discussions was what sort of interconnection. And there's key work we need to do with the UK government in deciding future interconnection policy, and the French government, and or even potentially, in my mind, to extend further to Spain or to work with Belgium and other countries to deliver that interconnection. And I think the key first question, as I said repeatedly this evening, is could the advancement of such technology, along with storage and other capabilities, mean that we would not require a facility? And I think, obviously, if there is a facility, if we find that doesn't cover our needs, that we do have a security risk, then obviously the first thing we would assess is the safety of any facility. And that's something that crew and the planning authorities would have to deliver.